So how do you, when a client comes to you, a lawyer who's, making a great income,
Yep.
But they have nothing to show for it, let's say, which is not an uncommon story,
No,
right?
it is
We
not.
both know lots of lawyers who spend exactly as much as they make and a little more because they can leverage that income to borrow and live outside of their means.
So this is obviously something that you do a lot with your clients. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the groundwork. It's the foundation for how you move forward, right?
It is.
What are some? I mean, it's a daunting task, right? Because when I talk to clients, it's you ask them what their vision is. They either go really big,
Yeah.
or they go really small. So it's I want to, go on vacation next month.
Yeah.
Okay. Or it's I want to retire it in 30 years or 20 years, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
How do you help them define that vision? Plot out a strategy. Maybe there's a bump in the road, but if you have the strategy, it becomes easier to stick with it.
Yeah. And if you understand why you're doing it, that anchors you, that brings you back to, even when there's a bump along the way, I understand why I'm doing this, and the why is so deeply important to me that even if it takes me off course temporarily, I'm not going to lose sight of why I'm going there. It's time to get into action. It's time to talk about how to do the things that we talk about.
Let's get to it.
Right? So welcome to The Wealthy Lawyer. Oh, fantastic.
Great to be back.
It's great to be back. Welcome back, Jeff.
Nice to see you. It's been a while.
It has been
Been
a
a
while.
minute.
Nice to see you too. So I've been really looking forward to this episode because,
Good.
in our intro episodes, in our previous episodes, we really talked a lot about the origin story of why we're doing this, and what we want to share with everybody. But it's time to get into action. It's time to talk about how to do the things that we talk about.
Let's get to it.
Right? So welcome to The Wealthy Lawyer.
Yeah, good to be here again.
Again.
What's new? What's up?
Well, I was doing a lot of thinking as we came into the studio today, and our whole premise is build your book, grow your wealth, right? Being a wealthy lawyer means a lot more than just having a lot of money in the bank. It means having wealth of practicing, having the kind of practice that you want to have. But it's really important to talk about what that practice is. It's really important to talk about what does wealth mean to you. And so today, I thought we'd talk a lot about what's that vision? How do you figure out where you're going?
How do you figure that out?
Yeah. So from a wealth perspective and from a practice perspective, let's give people an intro to how they can figure out where they're going, what their destination, what their vision is from a wealth perspective, and what their vision is from a building their practice perspective. What kind of practice do they want to have?
So this is obviously something that you do a lot with your clients. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the groundwork. It's the foundation for how you move forward, right?
It is.
What are some? I mean, it's a daunting task, right? Because when I talk to clients, it's you ask them what their vision is. They either go really big,
Yeah.
or they go really small. So it's I want to, go on vacation next month.
Yeah.
Okay. Or it's I want to retire it in 30 years or 20 years, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
How do you help them define that vision? How do you do it?
That's a great question. And the sort of underlying thing that I talk to my clients about in coaching and in strategic planning around creating a vision is having it be so aspirational, so big, hairy, and audacious that it's always a stretch, that it's always a reach, but that it's really clearly defined. And those two things sometimes seem in conflict, right? It's so audacious that you're always moving toward it, but it's so specific that you know the component parts of it. And when we're creating a vision around building a practice, it's about not deciding what you want to have. It's not about what you want to have. It's about what you want to do or what you want to be doing on your way there. So what is the kind of practice that you want to actually have? Who's your ideal client? What's your ideal file or type of work? What kind of billings do you want to have? What kind of income do you want to earn? Those are all parts of creating that vision. How about you? What about on the wealth side?
Well, it's the same sort of thing. I think there's, as we talked about in I think maybe the first episode, most people know where they are today, right? So they know they either like what they're doing or they want to change it, right? But then it's reaching back and saying, okay, well, this is where I am. Where did it come from? Which is a big driver for the vision. We talked about that last episode.
Yeah.
And then defining much the same way that you're talking about. Get as detailed as you possibly can. I think that's a big thing. It's not, to say I want to retire at whatever magical age. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's I want to retire at 55 and I want to have this, this, and that. I'm sure you find the same way where the more clear and the more precise you are in that vision, the more likely you are to achieve it probably, right?
Right. And, in the next 2 episodes, we're going to follow up this big question of where are you going? So what's your vision? What's your destination? Where are you trying to go? Next episode, we're going to talk about why you want to go there from a wealth and practice perspective. And then we're going to follow that up with how do you chart your path? How do you make a plan to achieve it?
Because it is a step-by-step, right? It's not something that you can just, and it's not a one-day thing either for a lot of people, right?
No, not at all.
I mean, I talk about this all the time where it's people think that it's a one-time event.
Yeah.
Right? They just think, okay, I'm going to set this vision and I'm going to create a plan and away I go.
Right.
It doesn't quite work like that.
It doesn't work like that.
Right?
And if it does, so there are lots of, there are lots of professionals out there making a very healthy living by creating those kinds of events. So whether it's a strategic planning offsite, a whole day, or where they take people through, okay, this is the vision, this is the way there, and now you have a strategic plan. But it doesn't get sticky in a day, right? Because not enough thought has gone into it, and not to disparage people who create plans in that way, but I believe there is a better way, and I know you believe there is a better way. It takes time. It's a process. You want to create a vision. You want to understand what your vision is. You want to tweak it a little bit until it feels really right. Yes, that's the vision that I have.
And I think one of the things that you talked about before, and I think this is a big issue with this, is the more effort you put into creating the vision, the more likely you are to achieve it, I think, as well.
Yeah.
And you had a really good thought process on how you kind of delve into that. Do you remember what you said?
Oh, it's the 5 whys. Yeah. So we're going to do that in the next episode, but ask yourself why 5 times. We can apply this to the vision too, to say, okay, where do you want to go? Well, how do you know that's where you want to go? What will that look like? What will that mean? What will that give you? What will be the outcome?
Right.
If you achieve that, what will it mean for you? And asking those questions 5 times, not just once, gets you to the true essence of it. So you're absolutely right. We can apply the 5 whys to
Every
the
step,
5
probably.
wheres. Like, well, where do you want to go? Well, how do you know that's where you want to go? Yeah, great point.
And I think the deeper you can get somebody to delve into it, the more thought that goes into it, the more thought that goes into the end destination. It's kind of like me planning to get my son to school.
Yeah.
We drive down to drop one off at school this past weekend. Then we got to get one across the country from A to B in short course. So when you're flying from the middle of nowhere, you have to give a little bit of thought to what's the A and the B. You can't just, we couldn't get them to the airport and just be like, drop them off and be like, find your way there.
Right.
So we had to plot a strategy to get him from A to B, B to C, and then ultimately C to his dorm room. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing with this, where it's you give it some thought, you plot out a strategy, maybe there's a bump in the road, but if you have the strategy, it becomes easier to stick with it.
Yeah. And if you understand why you're doing it, that anchors you, that brings you back to, even when there's a bump along the way, I understand why I'm doing this. And the why is so deeply important to me that even if it takes me off course temporarily, I'm not going to lose sight of why I'm going there. It's that important.
So when you're working with one of your clients,
Yeah.
right, they kind of have an idea of where they want to go.
Yeah.
So I'm a lawyer. I come to you and I say, Kelly, listen, I know where I want to be a partner. I want to be big law partner. That's what I want to do. And I'm a lowly first year right now. How do you take them from A to B? How do you get them thinking on the right track? Because you can't just tell them everything, I don't think.
No, that's not what coaching is. No.
So how do you get them there then?
Well, creating the vision is more than just about saying as a destination, I want to become a partner, right? And this comes back to the comment that I made earlier, which is it's not about what you want to have. It's about what you want to do and be, right? You want to understand what kind of lawyer you want to be, what kind of clients you want to have, what kind of work you want to fill your practice with that will give you a really healthy, self-sustaining practice and book of business that makes you worthy of becoming a partner. Right? Building a practice. We talk in our work with clients at Southern Group all the time about creating a practice that's worthy of acquisition. If you want to be a partner, that's what you have to build. You have to build yourself a business that's worthy of acquisition. Now, you cannot get there. Well, I shouldn't say you cannot. You can get there by just churning out the hours, building a massive book, billing, 2,000 hours a year. And sure, then you've got a book of business and a practice that's worthy of acquisition. But if you're miserable while you're doing it, it's not sustainable. It's not fulfilling. That is not the definition of success.
Right.
Being miserable is not the definition of success.
It's just funny because I had a conversation with somebody on the way here about exactly that. We were talking about budgeting, right? Which becomes a big thing on how do you get from A to B, right? What's my vision? Okay, where am I today? In order to get there from a financial standpoint, you need to look at your budget and say, look, I'm making X, I spend Y. What do I need to save out of those, the delta between those two to get me to where I want to get to? And as soon as I said budget, it was dead silence.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
No. They thought financial diet, right? They thought I was going to say, listen, you can't go away. You can't do this. You got to do it. Hunker down. So I think it's a matter of making it comfortable for them. But you made a good point earlier. Not so comfortable that it's not a stretch, right? Stretch. There needs to be some give and take there a little bit. Yeah. Right. And I think it's just funny because most people don't want to be on a diet. I sure don't want to be. Much less a financial diet.
Who wants to be on a diet? Who wants to be on a financial diet? But you want to have a plan. There's a difference between a diet and a plan, and that's what a budget is. So how do you, when a client comes to you, a lawyer who's making a great income, yep. But they have nothing to show for it, let's say, which is not an uncommon story, right?
It is
we
not.
both know lots of lawyers who spend exactly as much as they make and a little more because they can leverage that income to borrow and live outside of their means because there's always going to be more, right? That's the beauty of a profession like law is that you can always earn more.
Right.
There's always another step. There's always more at the end of that. You just have to bill more hours. You just have to become partner. You just have to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when they come to you and say, I want to build my wealth, what are the steps that you take them through to create a vision for their wealth picture?
Well, I think you brought up a good point, and that's the continuation. I call it the hamster wheel, right? So whether they get paid biweekly, monthly, whatever it is, it doesn't matter whether it's an associate or a partner, they get their pay and they know what that's going to be. It's usually fixed, right? Until they get their distributions or bonus, whatever. They know that X dollars coming in each month, so they can spend exactly that amount. And then again, the following month, maybe they fall in a little bit above that and they go another line of credit. They know that X number of dollars coming in the next month. So it becomes a mindset shift, right? Saying, look, Kelly, if this is really something you want to do, you got to get off that merry-go-round, off that hamster wheel. Mm-hmm. That's a tough pill for a lot of people to swallow.
Yeah.
Right? Because they think that they have to go from that to now I can't do anything. And I think to your point earlier, that's where you have to turn it and say, look, no. It's not all or nothing. You don't go from eating, McDonald's and all this to eating carrot sticks and enjoying it, because nobody does. So it's a matter of saying, look, what can we do? What things can we take out of that discretionary spending that's not really going to affect your lifestyle that much, right? And so I've got a process that I take them through where I give them basically an income statement that they'll go through, whether they take their bank account, whether they take their credit card statements, and go through, mark down everything. You spent $1.85 on a coffee, put that down, right? Then take a look at it. I get them to take a look at it in absence of me first, right? Because we can be our own worst critic, right? Yeah. And from there, it's just a matter of saying, look, once you get it on paper, right? And this is something that everybody can do. And you start looking at it, you can self-evaluate. Yeah. And you can see where the leakage is. Yeah. Right? From there, budgeting part is pretty easy, right? It's I always say, if you can save somebody starting out, so if you're listening, if you can save 10% of what you make, just start with that. 10%. So 10 cents of every dollar that you make, if you can just put that aside somewhere, you'll be so much better off. Then you can graduate from there to a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more.
And doing something with that.
And doing something with
bit
it
that you put aside.
But literally, it's almost like taking 10% and putting it in a jar.
Yep.
Even if you did that, you'd be so far better off.
100%. Now, I want to stop you there for a second, because we're doing what everybody often does, and our clients do this too. We're getting into the tactics. We're getting into the how. We're getting into the what you do, the plan. Everybody wants to know what they need to do to build wealth. Everybody wants to know, what do I need to do today to build my book of business, right? But before we can talk about those tactics, before we can talk about how much you put away or where you take it from or where it comes from, we need to talk about where you want to be. So how do you get your clients to really get clear on that destination, that vision? If you're putting a destination into the GPS, what is that destination?
I never ask them to do it on the spot. It's impossible.
Yep.
Right? I give them a little bit of rope to do that with. And I've got a page that I take them through that I give them. So whether it's an individual or a couple, doesn't matter. If it's a couple, I'll give one to each of them and say, Kelly, you do yours, and then you do yours, and then bring your notes together.
Yep.
Because you need to be on the same page.
Right.
Big thing. But if you're just a young single lawyer, I'll give them the page, and it's got maybe about a dozen sort of goals that one might want to think about at least.
Yep.
Do I want to retire early? Do I want to own a vacation property? Do I want to maybe own my first house?
Yep.
Is it debt? Is it whatever the things are? That becomes a bit of the score sheet, if you will.
Yep.
Right? From there, it gets at least people thinking a little bit. So it might not be one of the 12, but it might be, something they want to start their own firm in 5 years.
Yep.
That's not on the sheet, but it might be one of their goals. But it at least gets them thinking a little bit about the parameters, because most people have a hard time thinking about what they're going to do tomorrow or next week, much less 5, 10, 15 years up the road. Yeah. So I try to get people thinking 3 different timelines.
Okay.
What do you want in the next 3 years? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's far enough out, but still close enough that you can kind of feel it a little bit. Yep. We all remember the beginning of COVID, and that was only 4 years ago.
Yep.
That's one. Then it's sort of the 3 to maybe 7 or 10 years. Mm-hmm. Okay, where do I want to be at that point? Because looking at the far end of the reach, the 10, 15, 20 years up the road, is so difficult if you don't know the intermediary steps.
Yep.
That's why I often go.
Okay.
However, I will also, with some people, go backwards from that and say, because if they're really big picture people, they have an easier time saying, I want to retire at this point. And then now we reverse engineer backwards. What do they need to do in 3 years? What do they need to do in 7 years to get to that?
Yeah.
So it depends on the person, but it all starts, Kelly, with that page where it's goal setting page.
Yeah.
And giving them some color as to what they, might want to think about.
Yes. And that's a great tool. And we're actually going to share a tool that includes some of those questions and also includes the questions that I ask people about what is the practice that you want to build? What's the vision for the practice that you want to have? What are the things that you want to be doing on your way to success and fulfillment?
How do you do it then? Because when I think of it, it's all pretty black and white, right? It's time and money. To say to somebody, what kind of practice do you want to build? Or, what kind of firm do you want to build? How do you take them through that?
It's almost as black and white, right? Because what you're doing from the wealth side is you're thinking about what are the components of wealth that lead to the vision, right? I do the exact same thing from a building the practice perspective, which is who's your ideal client? And for some people, that question requires going back in time to say, think about your favorite client or few clients that you've had, the ones it didn't even feel like working with them because they were so aligned with who you are as a lawyer. The work they brought to you was so aligned that it just felt like, yes, if I could do this all day, every day, I would be happy. So who is your ideal client? What is your ideal file or matter or type of work that you're doing for that ideal client? And the other component is, what does success look like for you in terms of what you're earning doing the ideal work with the ideal clients? And a lot of that involves reaching back in time and looking at the time that you were happiest and the time, that you were doing the kind of work that you really wanted to do. And then the type of financial fulfillment that comes as a result of doing that. So it is a little bit black and white to say, okay, if I spend the next number of years of my life doing this work, practicing the law, I want to be doing something that I really enjoy with people that I enjoy working with. And I want to see the fruit of that labor. How hard am I willing to work? What is my capacity? How much of my life, how much of my time do I want to spend doing this thing? And then we understand, okay, the other piece is, what kind of contribution do you want to make? What do you want to be known for? What do you want your legacy to be? How do you want to impact people's lives by doing the kind of work that you do? There's no lawyer who gets into the law solely because they want to earn big money, because they know that they have to work hard doing that. They get into the law because they actually want to help people and they want to fix problems. So what kind of legacy do you want to leave? What kind of contribution do you want to make? How do you want to make people's lives better? What does that look like for you? That starts to fill out the vision.
Because I think it sounds like we probably do much the same thing, just on, obviously in different sides of it. But I find that there has to be a clarity to everything.
Yes.
And I find that, my job is almost part psychiatrist or psychologist as it is financial, because most people aren't very clear on what that is.
Right.
Really what they want to do, right? They have a rough idea, a rough picture, again, like I said, but getting right down to it, burrowing it down and being absolutely 100% clear on what that looks like. Yeah. At what point, Kelly, and this may be an unfair question to ask, but is there a point at which most of the lawyers that you deal with, they start to see that vision better? Like, if they're in their first year, it's like they're just trying to tread water, right?
Yep.
I think,
usually,
right?
Yep.
It's like keep their head above water, stay out of trouble, and be asked to stick around. Mm-hmm. At what point do you start to see the clarity or when do they become clear or more clear? Like, is there a length of time that it takes before that light bulb goes on and they say, I know what I want to be when I grow up?
There is, and it has nothing to do with the length of time they spend practicing law.
Oh.
It has everything to do with the amount of time they put in doing this exercise. I have met senior partners who got there via the figure it out as I go route and never really set the destination. And I've met, 7, 8, 9, 10 year of call lawyers who get who are ready to do the work to figure out where they want to go. But it all comes down to how much time do you spend actually figuring out and defining what success means for you. So no, there isn't a magic number that, oh, well, when lawyers have been practicing for 10 years, they know where they're going, they know what kind of, it doesn't happen by default. It starts to come into clearer focus, the kind of work they want to do. They naturally gravitate toward certain clients over others. But until you put that definition together, it's just, it's sort of an unconscious vision.
Right.
You sort of do it by feel, but you haven't actually put it down on paper. You and I both know, and we said this in a previous episode, you can, and I say this all the time when I'm doing strategic planning or coaching, you can go for a nice road trip, and you will eventually get somewhere that is a nice destination, and you can enjoy that. That's a great way to just get in your car and drive. Or you can put a destination into your GPS and follow the route and get there a lot more efficiently. You can decide what things you want to stop and look at on the way, and you can have a plan. Right? There isn't a right or wrong way, but if you're interested in reaching your vision, your destination, more quickly so that you can enjoy the fruit of what comes at the end of it, then you really need to define it. You need to put it down on paper. You need to look at it every day. You need to remind yourself, this is where I'm going.
So how do you help them then gain that exact clarity? Because again, I think a lot of people, maybe I'm wrong, but a lot of people that I run into seem to have the fuzzy vision of what they want, right? Whether that's from their practice, from their family even, from their finances. But it's like, how do you get them to go the one step further to really become that clear picture, as opposed to just going to the airport and saying, I want to buy a ticket and then go wherever that takes me, versus saying, this is where I want to get to. This is the beach. This is the chaise lounge chair I want to sit on. This is the drink I want in my hand. How do you get them to get that crystal clear in it? Or is it not that hard?
No, it's a process, and it involves checking back against the vision time and time again. It involves asking them about what they value and what their values are. It's about asking them who they are and who they want to be. Like, what kind of person do you want to be? How do you want to show up? In addition to what kind of law do you want to practice? How do you want to show up as a practitioner of the law? Again, the types of clients you want to work for, and the kind of life that you want to build, the kind of contribution you want to leave. So it's all of those pieces together that form the vision, and then we put that together and say, okay, so let's actually define what success looks like for you. Let's talk about what that vision is. It's written on paper, and you know they got it when they read it, and it's like, yes, that's it. You know, you feel it in your gut. You watch it happen. You see their physiology change. You see their tone. They get excited about it. That is what I want. Yes, if I could have that, if I could be that, if I could do that, that would be it for me.
You said an important word. I think that's where the light goes on everywhere. The excitement.
Yes.
When you see them kind of sit up and their eyes brighten up and they get excited about taking that next step. Yeah. That's when you know that they've got the vision.
Yep.
Right? I find it's too easy for a lot of people to say that, yeah, I want to do this. And they'll keep talking to themselves that they want to do it. But that excitement, I think, is what breeds the next step, which is, all right, let's get to it. Like, what do I have to do? Right. I'm excited. I'm ready to go. Yeah. And I think that's where, at least from my end, then it becomes easy.
That's the catalyst. That's the spark.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. So once the spark is there, now what? What process do you take them through? Is it like, where do I go from here? Okay, I got the vision, Kelly. Now how do you take them to that next level then?
Then we go into the why, and then we make a plan. And that's where we're going to pick up in the next episode.
Sounds good.